welcome to Attic Raiders Retro Reviews, where today we're going to be taking a look at Stargrave Dead or Alive, the latest supplement for Joseph McCullough's Stargrave Wargame series. All of the Stargrave material has been published by Osprey Games, and this is the 6th piece to be printed. It all started with the core rulebook, then we've had Quarantine 37, Hope Eternal, The Last Prospector, Bold Endeavour, the Side Hustle cards, and now Dead or Alive. Though it must be said that Dead or Alive was actually released in 2021 as a free PDF when the core rulebook was first released. The reason for that is because when Stargrave was being worked on by Joseph, COVID-19 hit and Britain went into lockdown, which made playing a wargame really hard without other people to play it against in your household, which you weren't allowed out of. So Joseph developed a solo scenario generator which players could download and use for free, so that even when the game was launched, if people couldn't play it with other people outside of their household, they could still play their own solo games. The Dead or Alive PDF supplement is still available on the official website for free, but now with the release of Dead or Alive, the official publication, it's been hugely updated and expanded. Whereas the PDF obviously would have to be printed by the user and doesn't feature any pictures whatsoever in here, the new publication of Dead or Alive is absolutely chock full, as you'd expect from any Stargrave publication, with photographs and artwork which is really gorgeous, and it makes this really worthwhile and worth the money getting it. Now, the free version of Dead or Alive is completely self-contained within here. Every one of the marks, the scenarios and the complications from here are in this new publication, but this has been vastly expanded. In the original free version of Dead or Alive, there were 5 different settings that you could play in. There was 5 different configurations of the gang that you'd be trying to play against. There was 5 different complications that you would be adding to your game to spice them up, make them more interesting. And there was 5 different marks that you were trying to hunt down for your bounty. But in the new version, there are 20 of each of those things. So now with 20 different settings available, 20 different complications, 20 different marks to hunt down, and 20 different gang configurations, that means that there's 160,000 different combinations of games that you could play. None of the actual rules or gameplay from the free PDF have been changed in the new publication, but new fluff has been added in, and there are a couple of little tweaks to make the game work better. So in the Crystal Forest setting, it was random encounters on a 14+, it's now random encounters on an 11+ rolled. Robot network complication originally applied to every gang member, including the mark, but now the mark does not get that attribute. Proximity mines have been renamed as biosensitive mines, though they still work exactly the same way and work on robots as well. The mark Christophon Mars has been changed from a female to a male for some bizarre unknown reason. The mark Pondo Pondo, which was a previously unidentified alien species, is now a floating legless salamander. The mark Tamix Phase now moves off the table starting on turn 6, rather than the previous where she had to be reduced to 7 hit points or less before moving off the table. And Doggerin the Soul Shark is also similar in that now they have to touch 3 points before moving off their table, whereas before they had to be reduced to 8 hit points before moving off the table. And Doggerin has also lost the ability to regenerate, so now instead of gaining back 3 hit points, he now only has psychic healing and can now only gain back 1 hit point at a time. But these are tiny little things which just make the game a little bit better, but they don't really change anything in terms of the gameplay itself or the rules of how you're actually going to go about your solo play. For anyone who's not seen the previously released free PDF, basically in Dead or Alive it's a solo game where you are going to be hunting down a bounty that you are going after. And so to do that, in this supplement we're going to roll on 4 different tables. One of those tables is going to tell us about where the game is going to be set. One of those tables is going to tell us who it is that we're hunting down and what their special features are. Third table is going to tell us what their gang is constructed from, and the 4th road result is going to tell us what little complications are added to the scenario to make it more interesting. Whenever you're setting up your table, you're going to put down 3 main notable features, or NFs. These are going to be different depending on what the setting is, but basically they are used for your mark to move between those 3 features before they're going to move off of the table, and you're going to lose the ability to capture them and gain the experience and the rewards. Some of the marks will do a lap between the 3 notable features before moving off the nearest table edge. Some of them will move between loot tokens before moving off the edge, whereas others won't really interact with them so much and will instead move off the table edge when it gets to a particular turn number. We've got all kinds of settings in here, from abandoned mines to archipelagos. We've got caverns, the Cinder, which is reoccurring from the previous Hope Eternal expansion and utilises the high radiation rules from that expansion as well. We've got the Crystal Forest, we've got Cyclopean ruins, we've got a derelict ship, there's a desert encampment, destroyed military installation, a farmstead, a frontier town complete with a marshal. We've got a jungle, we've got the lower levels of the city, we've got a metropolis which is going to be crowded with innocent bystanders, which is going to add an extra complication. We've got a starport, so that's going to be great for anybody who's been collecting their own spaceships and wants to use them in more games. We've got snow and ice, which has got lots of slipping and extra complications in there with that planet, some of the rules of which seem to come from the Stargrave games. We've got the stomach of a space whale, which has got lots of acid pools. We've got a swamp town that you have to be careful not to fall into the swamp. We've got working underwater, again using some of the underwater rules which previously came up in Hope Eternal expansion. We've got a volcanic plateau which has got exploding volcanic craters, and it also has the magmites from the previous rulebook. And then we've got a whole load of complications. Some of these come up naturally as part of the settings, but others you're just gonna roll for. Everything from aggressive plants to body doubles, having to capture your mark rather than just kill them. We've got zombies coming up using some of the Quarantine 37 rules. We've got poisonous gases, marks being difficult to identify, herd beast which are going to end up stampeding everywhere if you're not careful, hostages that you have to rescue as well as taking out the mark. We've got countdown timers to doom, so you have to get your game completed before the countdown runs out, otherwise everybody's dead. We've got innocent bystanders we have to be careful not to shoot. Magma geysers going off. We've got mutants, so that the crew that belong to the enemy gang of the mark, they can all have different kinds of mutations, which really is going to add a lot of extra wrinkles to your game. We've got needing physical proof, we've got the robotic network, we've got suicide cult, where people are going to blow themselves up if they lose too much health, or if they get killed, they might blow up. We've got swarms of insects, and perhaps my favourite, we've got the trophy hunter alien, which is basically where the predator from the movies actually comes into the middle of your game and starts taking people out. Then we've got giant worms, a bit like in Tremors, or wind and rain, which reduces visibility everywhere. So there's lots in here to really make your game more interesting. Our marks, again, we've got 15 new marks that have been added in since the original free version, and these marks do all kinds of things, from being able to flame up when they're in combat, and that's going to attack everybody who's in combat with them. We've got some fairly generic marks that don't have very much extra special about them. We've got Blord, who's essentially a mouldy pumpkin, I suspect being based on some of the previous Frostgrave miniatures that I've seen. And these marks all have different abilities, so that some of them don't take as much damage as they normally would. Some of them have got special weapons. Some of them are going to automatically reduce people's health if they don't make a will roll successfully. Some of them can heal themselves during the game. We've got some robots, so you're going to be able to use some of your robot specific powers, though notably these guys are immune to control robot. And as I said previously, each mark generally has a different way of moving around the table before they're going to try and get out of there, and you're going to lose your ability to get them. We've got nice Brood Queen here, who's going to also end up laying extra spider aliens that are going to attack you. You're going to have to take them out, so you want to take her out before she gets too many going. We've got entities, which essentially is one entity with two bodies, so you're going to have to take on two marks rather than just one sometimes. We've got great hunters, we've got marks who can levitate, we've got marks with void blades, we've got marks who have the ability to use snapshot, and marks that have energy shields as well. The gangs as well, as I said, there's an extra 15 different makeups of gangs, so generally each of the gangs, depending on what number you roll, are going to have 7 to 9 members in the gang as well as your mark, and they're going to be made up from lots of different things such as burners, troopers, guard dogs, armoured troopers, guard dogs, armoured troopers and sentries, and it tells you NF1, NF2 and NF3 which notable feature on your board they're going to be deployed starting next to. There's also a small bestiary because some of the creatures are from previous expansions, such as the giant worm, and that just collects them together here, though there's not really any brand new creatures that we haven't seen before. Ruin Wraith may be a new creature. I don't think I've seen this one before, but it's possible that it uses some of the same stats or abilities as Wraiths from Frostgrave. We've got the previous Hope Eternal Radroach here, and this is my favourite, the Trophy Hunter alien, which is the Predator from the Predator movies. He turns up, he's got his cloaking device, so he can only actually be attacked during the captain's phase, because then he's going to activate his armour and essentially be off the table, and you're not going to be able to target him at any point. It's really nice to actually have official rules to get the Yautja into Stargrave. And that is basically it. There's lots of nice artwork. It's really nice to see that this is the very first of the official publications that has the illustrator listed on the front cover. All of the previous ones have had the illustrator in the credits at the back, but this is the first to get the illustrators on the cover, which I think is a really nice touch from Osprey Games. And this is, as I said at the very beginning, designed to be a single player solo game experience. However, there are rules for cooperative play using some of the same rule systems that have been used in previous expansions such as Hope Eternal, where basically you're going to be creating two half teams which each of the two players is going to control. As an official publication, this is a really nice book. The quality is great. There's a couple of spelling mistakes and grammatical errors in here with extra words that should have been deleted, but there's maybe only about 5 or 6 mistakes in the whole book that I've picked up on. It's really great that there is brand new artwork for the different marks and the gangs that are in here, and it's also really nice to see that although a lot of the photographs in here are replicated from previous photographs that we have seen in previous expansions such as this, there are lots of photographs in here which have definitely been taken especially for this one. This one we've seen, for example, but there's a lot which we have not seen before at all. You can see, for example, not going to find one now, but these ones here, all the ones which have got this kind of background scenery, these have all been shot specially for this, and I know that because they use the Scavenger 1 and the Scavenger 2 miniatures photography, which we haven't actually seen in any of the previous expansions. So it's great to get new photographs in here as well as new artwork. As I've said, you can get the free version still, but this is, as I said, 4 times bigger, so it is definitely worth spending the money on. If you want to see just how it plays out, it's probably worth downloading this and having a look at the rule system in the free PDF before you commit to buying this, because as I said, the rules are basically exactly the same, but for anybody who is a fan of Stargrave, I would say that this is definitely worth buying. Well, I hope that's been useful to you. If it has, please remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and we'll see you next time with more wargaming and more vintage board games on Attic Raiders Retro Reviews.